Welcome to part 3 of my football journey. We are hours away from flying out of Dubai. And it's almost 3 a.m. at night.
Yeah.
But we thought we'd grind out part 3, get it out for you guys, share the story. So
Very important.
we're going to need to bring the energy here because this is the final part, and it's going to go from the beginning of 2019 where we left off in part 2 all the way to the present day.
Ooh,
Which is May 19th, 2022 in Dubai.
Wow.
And my flight is in a few hours.
This is going to be a thick episode with 3 C's.
The reasons that this is going to be a good one is because a lot of this, you were there too.
Yeah.
So
You're going to get a second perspective in a lot of these stories.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I'm excited.
There were a lot of good moments. Okay, so let's take it back to the beginning of 2019. This is 2018. I played in Austria first season.
Yeah.
I come back. We talked about that whole conflict that happened. Talk about the conflict. I think I'm going to have a setup to enter preseason with a professional team.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. So now, January, part ways with OPSM. Also, no opportunities. So now I'm like, what do? I closed off the opportunities in Europe, and it was a really difficult time because of, I think we talked about this in part 2, the whole feeling like I let my parents down.
Because you weren't enrolled in school, so you
Right.
have like another half year to do fuck all.
Right. So now I'm like, what do I do? And the next best option was playing League One Ontario.
And which is why you went to Hamilton.
Right, so I ended up going to Hamilton, but what actually happened is February, so a month later, I was pretty much just training on my own. I was really like depressed, like low,
I remember
just
that,
low point. This is where I actually filmed a lot of the behind the scenes clips that I showed you actually that one time where I'm like, I'm really thinking about quitting. Like I was seriously thinking about quitting, and it was just a difficult time. It was a really difficult time. This is also when we decided to start CMM.
Some very interesting things. I actually have the card.
I still have the card too. We decided to try and start a media marketing agency.
Yeah. You know what? We were like, yo, you know what?
Yeah.
Football opportunities are out the window. School is out the window. We're going to try our best to maximize what we got. And I think February time, we decided to... February?
Yeah, around the beginning of January.
Beginning
like
of
February,
the new year. Yeah.
something like that.
We launched a company called CMM.
Yeah.
What does that stand for?
Cruise Media Marketing.
Sit back, relax, put it on cruise. That
Exactly.
was our slogan.
Yeah.
And needless to say, how far did it go?
Well, we tried a lot of things, which goes to Hamilton too, if we go forward a couple of
Right,
months.
yeah.
But just to give a bit more context, so on the football end, I was like, okay, League One Ontario is pretty much my best bet at this point. My dad at the time, so coming to Canada, both my parents had a really difficult transition and they couldn't get into their original jobs. So I remember right around that time, I think he got an offer a few months prior where he needed to move to Hamilton to work.
Yeah.
And so it was so difficult because he'd do overtime, like Monday to Saturday, he'd do overtime, or Monday to Friday to start. And then on the weekend, like after his Friday shift ended, he would drive all the way back to Ottawa, 5-6 hours with the traffic, spend like one day of the weekend back home with the family, and then he'd have to go Sunday afternoon, drive back to be in Hamilton for Monday to show up at work. And
Wow.
so my dad was in Hamilton, so I thought, okay, maybe I can go find a team there and live with him. Right? So in League One Ontario, you have a lot of great teams in Toronto, and then between Toronto and Hamilton, you have Oakville. So you have the Oakville Blue Devils. And that's the team I eventually went on to play for. But I remember in February, actually, I tried out for Woodbridge, one of the best teams in Toronto, League One Ontario, at the time, at least.
Yeah.
And I remember they had a friendly game against York 9, which was a CPL team at the time. and the game was in the morning. So my brother, I tell him, can you drive me to the game? Because obviously, like, going to Toronto that early, just going myself, it would have been way too much. So wake up in the morning, I'm like, I'm sleepy on the way there. We get there, play against the CPL team, and that was my trial with the team.
Yeah. Like a proper game or friendly?
Friendly game.
Yeah.
And I got subbed on, and it was just a bad performance.
Ooh.
It wasn't a good performance, and the coach wasn't interested, and that was that. So
yeah.
that opportunity was out the window, and then I kept looking at other teams. Oakville Blue Devils came up, and they had a really good squad. So I got in contact with them, and I think in around like March time, I went down to do a friendly game with them.
Yeah.
And I killed it that game. I just played really well. We won that game. I played left back, and I had a couple of chances on net, and also we won. We just like smashed the team. So the coach was interested in signing me, and just for context, like that team I made friends with Zach Drake, who he played in the USL the prior season. There were a couple players who played in Uruguay. There was a former Canadian national team player. There were a bunch of D1 players, a couple of McMaster legends, like the players who were the best on that team. And it was just a really good team. So it was a good environment to be a part of, right? So then I tell my dad, can I stay with you in Hamilton and play with Oakville? And of course, he says yes.
Yeah.
And that was the next move.
So he signed to Oakville?
I signed with Oakville.
Interesting. I didn't know you were actually signed to a team. I thought you were just playing with the McMaster's University team, just training with them.
No, so I signed to Oakville Blue Devils. It took a while for the transfer to happen because I had played in Europe, so they needed an ITC, I think it's called.
Yeah.
But I want to also paint the picture of just what the environment was like. So my dad was in this shared place, and I remember we'd go up these stairs, and we'd be in the same room together.
Yeah.
And it was just just seeing him, he would walk to work every single morning, cold, it's freezing,
right, early in the year,
all the way, he'd walk to downtown. Hamilton's not that big compared to other cities, and he'd walk back, and just the place we were living at, it was a really difficult phase.
Yeah.
It was a really difficult phase.
Wow, that's the grind. I didn't know that side of the story. I remember you staying with your dad, and you telling me it was a small place, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's rough.
So May, the season starts.
Mm-hmm.
I had to wait for my transfer, but when it came in, started at the beginning of the season, played well, we won games, and then a couple weeks in, I just didn't perform quite as well as I did at the beginning, to be honest. And they had other players playing in the fullback positions who were just playing better than me, straight up. And so I was pretty much put on the bench, and I was brought on as a substitute player. That went on. Also, actually, important transition that happened in May. I moved so I was living with my dad, and then Felix.
You moved in with Felix.
I moved in with Felix, very good friend of mine. Shout out to him. He let me stay at his place, and they had a student athlete house, which had the McMaster players there.
Yeah.
And that was, really appreciate him for that. Such a kind human being. And that was the move. So I lived in that student athlete house.
Yeah.
And I remember I drive to practice to Oakville, and I just do the trainings there. It was difficult living there because I was sleeping on the couch. So it was a house. I was in the living room. I didn't have a room.
Yeah.
And I would just sleep on the couch.
When did I come there? Was that in May? I think I came in May.
I think you came in May.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Interesting, but I'm curious. So, before I get into going into May.
Yeah.
you would drive to Oakville to like train with them.
Yeah.
And how frequent were the trainings?
I think it was 3-4 times a week.
Yeah. 3-4 times a week. Only that. What else would you do on the side? You weren't in school.
I wasn't in school, so I would do extra training on my own.
Okay.
I would go to the McMaster field and just train on my own.
Yeah.
And it was hard, you know, like just going out there alone.
Especially after what happened at the New Year's, pretty much.
Yeah, right? So I just do extra training. I'd also try and film content. And actually, one of the most valuable things happened in my life around that time. Towards the end of 2018, I got into self-development and like just opening up my perspective to things. And I remember the Kickstarter was Gary Vee. I watched a content piece, which then got me to dive deeper into the field. And then coming into 2019, I remember the first couple of months I started reading a lot of books.
Yeah.
And one book that really changed my mindset was Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Yeah.
And it's all about having a growth mindset. And when I read that book, which was recommended by Tom Bilyeu, I remember I watched a video of his, it just started this process of reading and journaling. I started journaling in 2019. That's when I started, and I can very confidently say it's the one tool that has made the biggest impact in my life. In terms of becoming more self-aware, being more empathetic, being more disciplined, being more aware of everything.
Yeah.
And so I'd listen to these podcasts, Impact Theory, Ed Milet,
Love Impact Theory.
School of Greatness.
Love those.
Started reading more books, Dean Graziosi, Tony Robbins, and that's what else I was doing. That is what, you know, when I didn't have training, I would do that. I would read. I would like listen to podcasts. I would try and learn. And that really helped me during that time because it was 2019 was difficult. And then you came for a bit.
I came in May. We had the CMM thing going on. You know, I think previously we worked with a company called FTA.
Right.
Early in 2019.
Yeah.
And that was one experience that happened, you know. We didn't touch too much on it, but we were trying to do media marketing, right?
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, we got a client, FTA, Functional Training Athletics
Academy.
Academy.
Yeah.
And these guys needed a new website. These guys needed media marketing. These guys needed this. And, you know, we decided to run a proper campaign for them. Got them like, you know, 300,000 impressions. And we made a mistake, and our lack of experience cost us like to not be paid at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And at that point we were like, yo, we got to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was like an eye-opener for us.
Yeah.
So, and then after that you went to Hamilton.
Yeah, I think coming off of bad business experiences, we were like, yo, let's do something ourselves.
Yeah.
And we're really good people. Let's try and like, you know, go and try and do something ourselves. And I remember you came to Hamilton and we had this thing where we just went from business to business. We did the research and we would go, you know, open the front door, go to the desk, pitch our idea. Hey, you know, we do media marketing. And this was a way for us to create income on the side.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're not making money at this point.
Yeah.
And an important part of being able to put yourself in a position where you try and become a professional footballer is you need to have income. You need to have savings to be able to invest into trials, into traveling, into being able to live life until you get to that professional level. So that was one of the ways to hopefully be able to do that.
That was an interesting phase.
But it was a failure.
Dude, we would spend hours researching. I remember hours at the house.
Yeah.
You know, we were both sleeping on the couch, hours at the house, researching businesses.
Yeah.
And then the next day we would go to every single business in town, park at multiple spots, go here, go there, talk to them. Hey guys, we do media marketing. We want to help you out. Like just rejection after rejection after rejection.
Yeah.
And I think that led to, you know, we were like, fuck it, we're gonna film some content.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was like, 2 weeks in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And something interesting happened. Like, what happened? You tell me.
Well, we had a phase where we got angry at each other. Like we had some beef between each other, because I think what happened was we weren't business was failing.
Yeah.
And we started like blaming each other. So I remember this one morning, like we were planning to wake up at a certain time, like 7 a.m. and go, right?
Day.
And next thing you know, it's like 8:30 a.m. And we're both sleeping, like just waking up. And then you were like, yo, you know, you should be taking discipline, waking us up. And then I brought that energy back onto you. And it was just like this back and forth, which created a negative vibe. And I remember there was like a couple of days where it just
we weren't talking.
We weren't talking, and then you just left.
Yeah,
I think you left Hamilton.
Did we leave on a good note, or like what
I
was
don't
it?
think so. We didn't.
You
leave
don't
on a
think
good
so?
note, no.
I think I was just like, yo, like this isn't it. Like I'm not feeling
not
it. Like
it, no.
You know, and I might have said some harsh things.
Yeah.
I think we were both like tossing like.
And by the way, at this time, I'm also in the phase of pretty much like just getting subbed on in games and just playing the last minutes of games. So football was again not working out, and just everything was not working out. I'm not in school. It was not good.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how June and July actually went. Like I just kept coming off the bench.
Interesting.
We failed that whole thing that we tried to do. And
so I don't know anything that happened after this and like the whole summer.
Yeah, because we didn't
talk. We
didn't
were
talk.
like pretty much like
there was beef.
There was no contact.
There was no contact.
Yeah. Like very interesting phase, like from being best buddies to like, yo, I'm not gonna talk to you.
Yeah. Which, by the way, there was another phase where you ghosted me in 2018.
Yeah.
Which again, another podcast.
But that's quite the relationship here. But
yeah. So June, July, again, difficult. Like I'm trying to get my way into the starting 11 at Oakville Blue Devils. It's not working out. We're killing it. We're like top of the league. 6 players on the team. And I'm just, every day I go, the house was next to the McMaster campus. So I go onto the McMaster field with a ball with some cones, and I'm just training. I'm passing the ball off the wall, right foot, 100 passes, left foot, 100 passes, right foot, 2 touch, left foot, 2 touch. Then I'm doing some turns. 1 hour and a half goes by, all by myself. Occasionally, like, Felix would come.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I was just by myself. And just imagine, like, every day I'm there. I'm training. And then August hits. And August was a difficult time because we were informed that something terrible was happening with a family member, health related, and it was really serious.
Your family?
My family. Someone very close to me, and also so that was happening in August, and also I was away from school for a year, right? And you have that pressure of education. So I just felt like I need to go back to Ottawa to be there and support that person who's done so much for me in life. And that's when I made the decision to leave Hamilton, go back to Ottawa, and enroll into school at University of Ottawa.
Interesting.
So I leave the team, and this is the time frame where like you have D1 players going to play in the States, right? So it's a natural transition that happens where a chunk of the team leaves. But for me, the reasons were different.
Yeah.
And again, just challenging.
Interesting. So you enrolled back into Ottawa U. What about footy?
Enrolled back into Ottawa U, and now I'm playing for the University of Ottawa.
Okay, so now you are on the team.
I'm on the team, so I went to the trials. I knew there was a new coach who knew me previously, so it worked out. The level wasn't good, if I'm being honest, right? Like, for where I played, especially in 2018, I'm coming into the uOttawa soccer environment. Great group of guys. I made some great friends, but the level was it was low. And they're playing in this league that has 4 teams. I don't even know. It was
4
like,
teams?
It was a bad league, right? And
Wow.
so I'm taking 6 courses full time.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, come on, I got to show up for this family member. I really want to make progress on the academic side of things, but I also want to have soccer. So I'm playing for uOttawa soccer. We're training like maybe 2 times a week, playing the league, which was like 2 months long. I'm doing full-time school, and it just went back and forth between that. I would skip most classes. Didn't really enjoy school.
Yeah.
I would still get really high marks because I knew how to study. I just picked up that skill.
Yeah.
And I think around that time was also when I decided to give myself one last shot in Europe, because I realized that I reflected back onto 2018, and I realized that mentally, the mental toughness let me down. And I told myself, I have to go back. There's some unfinished business, and it's for myself. I want to prove this to myself.
Yeah.
So approaching December of 2019, now I'm contacting a bunch of teams back in Austria. I'm contacting teams. I'm trying to get a trial. And finally, I make a connection with Wacker Innsbruck.
Okay. Haven't heard of this part of the story.
Solid team.
Yeah.
They're usually in the Austrian Bundesliga. At the time, they just got relegated to the second league.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the trial with their second team, which was in the 3rd division of Austria.
Yeah.
Scheduled for January. So moving into 2020, January.
I think this time we reconnected.
Yeah, I think we touched base again, right? And then probably didn't talk for a couple months again, and then we reconnected again, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
But what actually happened is, so, just emailing, make that connection, I get the trial.
Yeah.
I have my one yes, the one opportunity, I decide to take it. This time, still, you have the whole situation of, I'm just trying to think, was it 2008? Yeah, so you have this situation of, okay, so I go to Austria, right?
Yeah.
January. And I'm doing part-time school because I wanted to still be doing school. And I go there and I do the trial. I remember arriving in Innsbruck. I arrive at the airport, and the guy, he's got my name on it. And I'm like, whoa, like, that's kind of cool,
Yeah.
Like,
First time.
Yeah, because 2018 was a sick experience, but this was like a proper club, right? These guys like Europa qualifiers in the past, and like very good history. So I go there, I do the trial, and that team was very good. The second team, I was on trial at the same time. I remember they had me in a hotel during the trial, and
Proper hotel.
And I made a friend there who was also on trial, Paulinho.
That's so sick.
Sick player. He played Belgium U17 national team. He played for Ghent in the Belgian first division. Then he went second division in Portugal, got injured, lost his contract, and now he ended up here, right? Then you have a Japanese player who played fourth division in Germany. Then you have this other player who played in Norway and Hungary. One of the two countries, he played first division. Then he lost his contract. Now he's here. So solid players.
Yeah.
I trial with them. Early morning training session, they do technical, and then later in the day they do team training. So you're training like a proper professional, right?
Yeah.
And I remember doing the trial. I'm there for 2 weeks. And after the 2 weeks, I get called in for the results, essentially. I get called in, you got the coach, and you have me and the player who played in Norway and Hungary. He called us both in. And essentially the conversation was, look, you guys have the level to play here. You have the level to play here. And we actually like you. But you didn't do enough for us to sign you as foreigners and give you a proper salary to be able to live here. Because Innsbruck was an expensive city, And this club were doing things the right way. So if they were going to bring a player on board, they were going to take care of that player.
Yeah.
So the other player was like, okay, thank you, leaves. And I remember I was just sitting there and I had a decision. I could have just left like that other player.
Yeah.
But something inside me was like, this is my last shot. I told myself this is my last shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just asked the coach, I'm like, is there any way we can make this happen?
Yeah.
And we went back and he said, no, like I talked to the sporting director, financially it's not going to work. And I just said, listen, I'm so committed. Give me half a season with the second team. I'm going to work like crazy. And in the summer, I'm going to move to the first team.
Yeah.
I want to give whatever I can to this team. Just give me the chance. Please.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, let me talk to the sporting director. Let me see what I can do. So they decide to give me one more week to prove myself.
1 week. Okay.
I do another week of training with the team. And at the end of the week, phone call with the sporting director. And he says yes.
Vamos, let's go.
He says yes.
Sick.
So signed a contract with them. It was a good setup because they had a place for me in the downtown of Innsbruck, which is a beautiful city. Like, you walk out, I think you've seen the pictures, right? Some of the videos.
Bro, this is sick. I didn't know this part of the story. This is sick. Go on.
You walk out, beautiful mountain, this way.
I remember.
You look that way, beautiful mountain. And just so, everything was so nice.
Yeah.
And I was living there and going to training, professional setup. They had my name on the locker room. Even though it was the second team, they had my name. They had the name on the back of the kit.
So sick.
Proper, right? First time name on the back of the kit.
Yeah.
So, and here's where it gets interesting because they printed the jersey.
Yeah.
This was in February, right? And what happened was, this is preseason because in Austria you have a longer winter break. So in March is when the second half of the season starts back up again. And we were starting up for the second half of the season, and it's 2020. And what happened in 2020?
Oh, 2020. Wow. So that was
What happened?
COVID-19, man.
So I'm sitting, I remember I'm sitting, with Paulinho at the time, and we're looking at this TV, and they're talking about how there's this outbreak in
China.
In China, was it? There's this outbreak, and we're talking, we're like, is it going to come here? Is it a few days later, finally some cases pop up in Europe, and we're like, nah, it's not going to affect anything. And next thing you know, 1 week before the season starts, there's cases in Innsbruck.
Yeah.
Italy was like a big hub, and Italy was really close to Tyrol in Austria, which is where Innsbruck is. So they suspended the league.
Wow.
And it was really interesting because I remember in preseason I was competing for a starting 11 spot, and I had my groin injury came back. Okay, this is really important to the story because the next year was so difficult with this groin injury, but it started coming back, and because I let emotions get to me, and I'm like, I need to prove myself. I need to make the starting 11 for when the official league games start. I just decided to keep playing on it. So I would be in pain in training. And the week before, I remember there was this preseason friendly in Germany. We took the bus, we go there. He starts me that game. And I'm like, this is the game where I show it.
Mm-hmm.
And from the start of the game, I was like limping. I was limping on the groin. I'm like, just get through the game. Just come on, put on a performance. Get through the game.
Yeah.
I need to make the starting 11. And I remember 30 minutes into the game, I couldn't put pressure on it.
Yeah.
And I forced to the 45th, but the performance was just, if I'm being honest with you, like it was just, I was getting the ball and I was just passing it, getting the ball, passing it. So doing what I needed to do, but not showcasing anything to be like, oh, he's better than the winger who played for Belgium youth national team in Ghent, right?
Yeah.
So at halftime, I talked with the coach. He's like, I'm going to give you 15 more, 20 more before I give somebody else a chance to showcase themselves in preseason. And I told him I can't. I couldn't. And I decided to sit out. a week after, COVID hits, and
Interesting. Yeah.
things get suspended. My uncle actually decided to make the call for me and say, you got to go back to Canada before they block the international flights. And I'm grateful that he decided to make that
Because that's exactly what happened.
decision for me. And so I took the flight back. And right after, they pretty much, we all thought like 2-3 weeks and we're back at it.
Yeah.
And then 2-3 weeks go on and they suspend the league. They cancel the whole season.
Wow.
And it's COVID, right? Like everybody, you can relate. The world shuts down. Sports shuts down. And now you're in your house every single day. And as an athlete, you're so tied to sports. So what do? So quarantine training, right? You do whatever you can. And
Though these are the Ape Mode days.
yeah, and this is actually when my relationship, I knew Antonios for a long time.
Yeah.
But with Ape Mode specifically, his company, that's when like the business relationship started, when I went back to Ottawa. And I had so much time on my hands. I didn't really have much to do. But yeah, so I come back and it's COVID, right? And Canada was like super strict with things.
Yeah.
So lockdown, masks, gloves.
Canada was in like one of the worst positions ever, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember like that time that COVID hits and you and Antonius were talking, and you guys like were coming up with this plan to like say, guys, everyone in Ottawa, everyone in Canada, like, listen, you don't have to stop training. We're gonna run sessions online.
Yeah.
Join in. The Zoom was huge, you know, and this is where I started like coming back in, and I was like helping out with this, helping out with that. We had like proper sessions. First session 100 people, second session 200 people. It was looking really good. So like I remember that time.
Yeah, so doing the quarantine training.
Yeah.
Hopefully in my mind I'm like, in the summer I'll find either I can continue with the current opportunity or I'll find a new opportunity. And so I start basically doing the social media for Ape Mode Fitness. I start doing coaching for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just built up, like no clubs were offering training and we were offering great training. So everybody just joined in on our online training and did that for, that turned out to be a long-term play.
Yeah.
But also what happened was, this is important to the storyline, my groin injury, right? So I come to Canada and I'm like, okay, this is kind of working out for me that there's no football, because now I can give it 3-4 weeks and I'll be good again.
Yeah.
And 4 weeks go by and I'm doing a little bit of running outside and I feel it. I'm like, okay, maybe 6 weeks. Maybe like I played on it too hard and 6 weeks go by and it still hurts. Now I'm taking it a bit more serious. I tell Antonios about it. I remember he was running outdoor sessions for the best players in Ottawa, but it was limited to 5 people because Ottawa had a limit where you can only have 5 people going outside.
That. Yeah.
And that was like 2 months after I think COVID really
Yeah.
hit to start. So it was like a slow opening. But he recommended me to Andrew at Vitality Physiotherapy, a fantastic physiotherapy clinic in Ottawa. And I started doing groin rehab. And I remember just the upcoming months were so frustrating because what I thought would just be like a 1 month recovery, 3-4 months in, and it still hurts. Yeah. And I'm doing everything they're telling me to do in terms of rehab. Yeah. And every time I come back and try and touch the ball and do cuts left and right, my groin hurts. And now again, like mentally, it's just so difficult because I worked so hard to create this opportunity for myself in Austria. Yeah. Professional club. It was a professional club. I'm on the second team. I have the pathway to move up to the first team, sign a contract.
They were willing to give you game time too.
And the first team players would get signed. Like one guy I remember got signed to the second Bundesliga club in Germany. Forgot the name, but the exposure was there. Yeah. Right? So I worked so hard to create that, and then COVID comes and shuts down that opportunity. Then I'm back in Canada. Now I have the groin injury, and now it looks like for the summer I can't physically play.
Yeah.
So what am I gonna do? And
wow. Yeah.
it was just difficult.
Dude, I remember this time. It was rough. You couldn't properly train.
Yeah.
You couldn't play with the team.
Yeah.
And it was like, football was like, yo, I can't play any football. You're going a long time just not even touching the ball. I remember that specifically. And that was like one of your biggest frustrations.
By the way, that was also when I first started TikTok.
Yeah.
And fun fact, when I first started TikTok, I made comedy videos.
Yeah.
So if anybody is like an OG, like if you go way back on the TikTok page,
Yeah.
you go way back, you'll find the comedy videos at
Yeah.
first. And it's interesting to see how things have evolved to now like documenting the storyline.
Yeah.
But to your point, football was so frustrating that I would start to like try and do other things to like get my mind off of football. And I remember later on in that summer of 2020, I also started a podcast.
8 billion gifts.
8 billion gifts. What did you think of that when you first saw it?
I think it was it was unexpected. I wasn't expecting that from you.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, man, this is really cool, the direction you wanted to take.
Yeah.
And you had some really good people on there. And I was like, man, this is like some really good stuff. And I was inspired by it. Like, for those watching it, go check out 8 billion gifts. Like, there's some dope conversations on there. Like, some sick people, like very qualified people too. So I think that was a very like interesting, good phase. And I saw you like growing mentally, like insane. Your mental growth as a person, I noticed like being close to you at that time, you were growing like really fast. So that was an interesting time to like see.
Having a conversation with somebody new every single week,
Yeah.
who has done special things in life, who has had a unique story,
Mm-hmm.
who has had special experiences that they can share, it opens up your perspective.
Yeah.
And 8 billion gifts, the idea is that we have 8 billion people on the planet, and every single person has a unique gift that they get to offer to the world.
Yeah.
So the podcast was a platform for people to come on and share that gift to inspire people who listen. But it was also a platform for myself individually to become more confident, to learn, to put myself in an uncomfortable position.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I would schedule these podcasts. I would send so many emails. I would go off, like I'd have the lecture, I'd have like the online lecture playing in the background, and I'd just be emailing people, like trying to find their contacts. And I put out one episode every single week for a whole year. And every single time, right before the Zoom call, I was nervous.
Yeah.
I was like, I would sit there and I was nervous. And I think just putting myself into that discomfort consistently over time,
Mm-hmm.
it got me used to that discomfort.
Yeah.
So my comfort zone became bigger. It's almost like I got
Interesting.
comfortable
Yeah.
being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that's what happened in summer of 2020, and I think that was a positive distraction away from football.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I'm really proud of in life.
Who was your
8 billion
favorite
gifts.
person you had on the podcast?
It's really difficult to say who was my favorite person. I would need to think about that.
Was it the happiness coach? Like, I feel like she was up there.
She was up there for sure.
Yeah.
She was up there. Favorite person.
You had an Olympian on there too.
Olympian was so inspiring for sure. Yeah, that's a difficult one.
Yeah.
That's I'm gonna need to think about that. But 8 billion gifts. That touches my heart.
Yeah.
And we'll have to see if I ever am going to be in a position to start that up again, because I finished season 1, which was 52 episodes, 1 year. Season 2 might come in the future. But back to football. So this is summer of 2020. I'm now behind the scenes trying to create an opportunity for myself to get back into the football scene. So just for context, at the time also I think there was an Ottawa CPL team being made, Atletico Ottawa. I think that was the year they started it. And I tried whatever I can to get connected, to try and get in.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. Right? Because I always, like, if you're in a city where you have a professional team, you should try and make that professional team before you go and look elsewhere. But I tried and I couldn't make the connection, and I wasn't able to get a trial. So again, now I'm looking outwards, and this time I was looking at Germany. I was following up on some connections, and I was able to secure a trial in the 5th division in Germany, in Leipzig.
Okay.
And I remember like I was really considering doing it, but then the second wave of COVID picked back up. But something that made it really, really difficult is that we got news that that family member that was, going through this health situation, and it was progressing. They had to start chemotherapy in the fall of 2020.
Yeah.
I think that's the timeline, and it just, everything else became irrelevant for me, and I decided to stay in Canada to really provide the support, because in my family dynamic, I think just because of the experiences I've had, I'm so grateful. I'm able to be this link to bring different members together and just bring more joy and energy into the family dynamic. And I just felt like I need to be there. And so I turned down that opportunity to go and have a trial in Germany, and I decided to stay back. And pretty much what I did the fall of 2020 is I took 6 courses at uOttawa.
You went hard.
And I just grinded.
Yeah.
I just studied. I would do training, of course, try and keep up my training, and my plan was, okay, 2021, let's hope that something comes up and I can keep pursuing the dream. But that's pretty much how that went.
I think on and off during that time, like, we were filming videos here and there.
Yeah, I mean, where it really kicked off, and this is the exciting part because we have so many cool stories to share now, is 2021, which, very important date, is January 1st, 2021. Because I started TikTok after COVID hit, and every day, at the start, actually not every day, I think it was every second day.
Yeah.
Then I tried to do every day. I'm creating content.
Yeah.
Right? I'm creating content. I'm starting to grow the page. But on January 1st, 2021, it was a significant day because I decided, let me put out my dream into the world. Let me make myself vulnerable, because then I'm going to be accountable. I'm going to have this social accountability. I'm putting myself out there. I'm going to need to get this done. I've had this dream for many years. I've been thinking about quitting. Let me put it out there. That's going to force me to commit through with it, but it also is going to give me the chance to document the whole thing and inspire other people and educate other people about what the process is really like. So January 1st, 2021.
That's where the road to pro
I'm making the video. I'm wearing the Wacker Innsbruck shirt. I'm at my house in Canada. I'm with my family. And day 1 of trying to sign a professional football contract.
Day 1.
And I make that video, and I remember that video gets 200,000 views. And the next day I'm checking Instagram, and like from TikTok, the traffic went over to Instagram, and I'm like, wow, like people really like this concept. And now I'm going at it. I'm creating these videos, sharing my process of trying to become a pro.
Yeah.
And by the way, back to the groin injury, the beginning of 2021, my groin still hurts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So imagine how long of an on and off this injury was.
This is a year-on injury at this point.
It was there for a couple weeks, even 2-3 months, goes away for a couple weeks, comes back. Early 2021, I talk about it. And from this point on, I'm not going to get into all the details because I've documented the whole process on the football side of things on TikTok. So if you go back to early 2021 and day 1 of day 365, you can see I put videos out. So from now on, we're just going to be recapping mostly, but pretty much.
I'm curious though, were you doing any sort of team training at this point?
No, because I couldn't. I couldn't. My groin was hurting.
Okay.
And also we were in a 3rd lockdown actually. Right. Ottawa was so strict.
Right.
Ontario was so strict in this whole COVID thing.
Yeah.
They would close off everything, and in the winter you got snow on the fields, and the domes, the sports facilities, and the gyms are closed. So what are you gonna do? I had nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, when things opened up, I would do a group training at Sensplex. I would run the sessions, join other people's sessions. But pretty much January to July of 2021 was just, I would train. I eventually got the groin to a point where I didn't feel pain anymore. That was such a happy moment for me. I would just train. I would like create content, grow the page, do 6 courses at the University of Ottawa, one of which was a lab.
Yeah.
And it's like science, so like it was really
Did you need to be there in person?
for the lab, yeah.
Yeah, but everything else was online.
Everything else was online.
Okay.
But 6 courses it's not a joke. Like
That's heavy.
That's like a lot of people haven't seen.
Yeah.
They didn't get to see that part of the journey, is like the hours I would spend on school, just behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Which again, I had this ability to not need to spend as much time, but still like it was a grind. And yeah, so just to recap that whole first half of 2021, because again, it's on TikTok, if anybody wants the details. I want to move to the summer of 2021, because this is when the opportunity came up to go to Spain.
Yeah.
Madrid. My friend Mark was running a showcase called Showcase Madrid, and he saw what I was doing with the social media, and he decided to give me the he said, look, come out, you won't have to pay because there was a fee associated with things, but just promote for us. And I've never been to Spain for football, and at the time I had some other things, but it wasn't crystal clear. So I thought, why not? Like, I'm going to be covered to go there. I have a place to stay. I have food. It's a showcase. And I wanted to go through the experience to also show other people what it's
like,
about,
yeah.
what it's like. And I got there.
Yeah. I think prior to this is very important to consider, because this is where I come in.
Yeah.
You had convinced me to quit my job.
Yeah, so tell us about that. How did that happen?
So pretty much, not going into detail with what I'm doing, but like I remember.
And maybe give us like a quick in on where you were at in your life.
Yeah.
Because I think it gives a unique, provides unique context to like the transition you've had in the last year. Because this is only a year ago. Bro, it's
big changes
2022
happened,
May right now.
Yeah.
Think about where you were at May of last
1 year ago, yeah.
Yeah, so paint the picture.
So pretty much coming off like a harsh like relationship type deal.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like very close to you at this time. We were like close friends again. You were always helping me with the mindset aspect of things, and I got through all those dark moments, and I was like, go back, live with my parents.
Yeah.
And we started talking more, and I was like, yo, I have more time now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to come out, do videos. And you were like, yo, I have ideas. And you mentioned to me the Road to Pro series. You're like, yo, I want to film documentary style videos. I want to document this journey, what's going on. I'm going to make some crazy shit happen this year. Like, watch.
Yeah.
And I want to document this. And I was like, I love it. I love artistic style videos. And we started creating YouTube videos together a bunch. It was a lot of fun. And bro, I think we're getting close to May now, right? And we're talking, we're this. And one of the nights you call me and you're like, Daniel, I want to invite you in on a project. And I'm like, so what's up? And I remember that call that we did. You had a document ready too. And this guy pretty much tells me, listen, I'm going to be going to Spain for like football. And I would like you, this is an opportunity for you to come. I would like you to be there and like, film together and make some crazy shit happen. And he explained to me the options, like how things would work. You were like, yo, you can come for 2 weeks, you can come for a month, you can stay for 2 months, you can stay for longer and try to figure something out, like these are the options, and like I was like, man, this is super exciting. And literally I remember like a week later, after we had that conversation, I went in and quit my job, where it was a comfortable job. I was making like, I was making good money, and I quit my job and I was like, I want to do something that I'm truly happy with. And this was like what I've always wanted to do: travel, film content, follow a journey, make a story happen. And you convinced me. You're like, all right, Daniel, we're gonna go to Spain. So now here's where we're at. You're going to Spain for the Showcase Madrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So July.
Yeah.
14th.
Yeah.
I think 11th or 14th. I go to Showcase Madrid.
Yeah.
And we had planned to link up later because you had a wedding to go to and then we were going to meet later.
Oh my God, yeah.
But I go to the showcase and I remember my friend Mustafa. So he comes to the showcase and we arrive in Madrid and we go. It's this 1 week thing. We're at this place. Every day we're doing 2 sessions, one in the morning, training, and then a game later on. And then there was like gym and pool and stuff like that. Important part to the story. 4 weeks before I leave, I'm training. The groin injury's done. I'm like, yes, let's go. And I always took initiative to like host sessions at Nepean Sportsplex or wherever I could. I would like get all the top players in the city who didn't have a team at the time to come out and do group training, and I would run these group training sessions to try and provide value back. Of course, like I'm training, but also I want to start building community. And I was doing that consistently to prep for the summer opportunity in Spain because I needed to get fit. And I haven't played in so long.
Yeah.
So I was at a huge disadvantage. And this one training session, I remember, unfortunately, we're playing this small-sided game, and it was Felix and we collide our knees. It was a knee-to-knee collision, like hard.
That was Felix.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Accidental, right? It happens. And so I'm limping off. The next day, like I'm limping on it. Go to physio. Turns out the impact was so hard that it caused tendinopathy, patellar tendinitis. So the tendon just got so inflamed, it got damaged, and then so inflamed from the impact that it was bad because it was 4 weeks before I wanted to leave. I went to see Andrew. We had the confidence that we could heal it within 4 weeks and at least get it to a point where when I'm on that field in Madrid, I'm not feeling pain. That was the most important part. And I remember I get there and I'm like, okay, it's a 5-day thing. We're training in the morning, playing at night. If it starts hurting on day 4 or day 5, okay, I'll push through it. It's okay. Day 1, morning training session. I'm doing, the warm up. We're doing the first drill and it starts hurting. I'm like, wow,
How bad was the pain first day?
3 out of 10.
Okay.
But I knew it was going to progress, and at that moment I'm like, this is going to be a long week. So by the way, context, the opportunity with the showcase was that there you have some scouts from these top clubs in Spain, Rayo Vallecano, Leganés, these other clubs. And they're going to pick like 2-3 players at the end of the showcase from 60-70 players, and you're going to have a trial with them, with their second team. And so I'm like, this is the week I need to perform. And I was never so attached to the whole like showcase and combine scene because I know there's a lot of scams in the world, and there's a lot of these companies that they're in it for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. And I always went about like doing things my own way and just grinding myself and getting opportunities myself. But I wanted to experience it once at least. Yeah. So I go there in the morning, day 1 it hurts. Yeah. The evening we play the game. I'm playing right back, I think, just because I didn't want to run as much. And I score a goal. So I cut in, ball comes, I take a touch, left foot outside the box, it goes top corner. I'm like, wow. This is amazing. And the whole game, I'm playing with pain. Day 1 goes well. Day 2, average. Day 3 goes well. And as these days go on, my knee keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Day 4, I wake up. I'm trying to get out of bed. And I can't lift my leg. I'm not kidding, bro. I'm trying to lift my right leg, and I can't. So I grab it. I get it off the bed. And I'm limping on it. I'm hopping. I'm like, yo, what do I do? 2 days left. I talked to the organizer. They're like, you have to play in these games. They're talking about you. The scouts are talking about you. You have to play in these last 2 games. So I take painkillers. I ice it. I do whatever I can. Cream. Anti-inflammatory. I play the game. Do well. Play Friday. Another good performance. And I'm skipping past all the pain I had to go through. It was honestly a really difficult week. And finally, they bring the players together. And at this time, there's a lot of attention on the TikTok page. So everybody's watching and they're so excited. I'm finally going to Europe. This is my chance to sign with a team.
Yeah.
And I remember they're picking players for the clubs. And they're picking players. And like 4 players are picked. And they're on the last club. And I'm like, all right, you know, if this doesn't work out, like, I'll send more emails. I'll make phone calls. I'll try and find an opportunity. And the last club picks me. I remember I was just like walking towards the center of the circle, and I'm just like, thank you. Like, this is the moment.
Yeah.
This is the opportunity.
Injured knee.
On an injured knee, I came out, I showed up, I fought through the pain, and I made it.
Yeah.
And it was a good moment.
Yeah.
In that moment, it was good. The weekend comes, and now I'm making the post that I got selected, and 2 million views, like thousands of comments. Everybody's supporting me. Rayo Vallecano have a trial with the second team, supposedly.
Yeah.
And the trial was gonna be mid-August. This was end
14th.
of July. Showcase was end of July. August 16th was actually
16th.
the first day, right?
Okay.
I remember this because you were there too. And so I was confused. I'm like, aren't teams already in preseason? And they told me like, no, that's when they start their preseason. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'll trust you guys. And so the 2-3 days after, I went from the highest high to the lowest of lows, because I convinced myself in my mind that I had torn my patellar tendon. So I'm waking up after this week of showcase, and I'm limping. And I'm starting to feel like my knee, and I'm realizing like on the left it's firm, but on the right it like bulges in. So I'm like, wow, did I tear it? So I'm doing the whole Google thing when you think something, the thing you always do, right? Everybody does this, like you go on Google,
Google it.
I have pain here, or like
Google
symptoms, and I got in this really bad mind frame, and I convinced myself, okay, I'm gonna get surgery. I'll be out for a couple months, and I'll bounce back. It's okay. And after a couple more days, I go see a physio in Spain, and they tell me it's not torn. And then I also do a call with physio back in Ottawa. They tell me it's just really badly inflamed. So now I have 2 weeks where, 2-3 weeks before the trial,